Good evening, Mr. Hines.
Good evening.
I'm Dr. Shanice Candy Tate. I'm with the Association for the Study of African American Life and History, Atlanta branch. And we're pleased to be in your home this evening in Roswell, Georgia. And I'm here with
Sean Jones, also with the Association for the Study of African American Life and History, Atlanta chapter.
And Sean's going to get us started with some questions for you.
Okay.
Good evening, Sergeant Major Hines. It's a pleasure to be with you this evening. How are you?
Fine.
Good, glad to hear it. Okay, sir, we'll jump right into it. Where were you born?
Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
And what were your parents' occupation?
Father was a layout person and mom was a seamstress.
And what year was that you were born in?
1946.
Okay.
I'm sorry, say it again. Your mother was a seamstress? And
Yes, right.
Father was?
And father was a layout person.
And their names are?
Fred Hines, Sr., and Mary Hines.
And do you have any siblings? If so, what are their names, gender?
None living.
Okay, but you
Vivian,
had...
yes, I did. Yeah, Vivian Hines, and she's passed several years ago of cancer. And I have a person that I call a brother. He was kind of raised with us. That my father used to coach semi-pro football, and he was one of the individuals that came up from North Carolina as a young man, and he got a severe injury, and mom and dad took him in. So he raised up. He's about maybe, I guess maybe 7 or 8 years older than me.
And his name was?
His name was Leroy
Okay.
Garden.
Okay.
Yes. We called him Kilroy. So.
And I'm sorry, I was listening. Tell me where you were born originally?
Philadelphia.
Philadelphia, okay.
Did either of your siblings, were either of them in the military? And if
No.
so, what branches?
No.
Okay. What were you doing before you entered the service?
High school.
High school, what's the name of high school?
John Bartram High.
John Barton. In Philadelphia or
In Philadelphia.
Okay.
What were some of your the fun things or extracurricular? What were you doing in high school?
I was on the football team.
Okay. What
And-
position?
Fullback. And defensive linebacker.
Okay.
In high school in them days, you played both ways.
In all the minutes.
And all the minutes.
Both
Yeah,
coming and going. Both
yeah,
sides.
coming and going.
No water.
Right.
No water breaks, no time out.
Well, you know, unless you played hurt.
Okay. Which branch in the military did you serve, Major Hines?
United States Marine Corps.
Okay. Did you enlist or were you drafted?
I enlisted.
So what made you enlist?
I don't know. It was just something that I wanted to do.
Okay.
So,
Why did you choose the Marine Corps?
well, because I enlisted in our neighborhood, and the guys in the football team, guys I grew up. So it must have been about 11 of us went into the Marine Corps, because one person went in and no one wanted to be outdone. And so he would come on with his nice, pretty dress blue uniform, and the girls were looking at the dress blue uniform. So we wanted a piece of that dress blue uniform,
Okay.
not realizing how much it cost.
And what year was that?
1964.
What happened when you departed for training camp during the early days of training?
We started to realize that this uniform was not something that they were going to give you. You had to earn it. And Marine Corps training at that time, and still is today, it was pretty rough. A lot of things happened. In '64, they did a lot of things.
Okay. Can you elaborate on that a little bit more?
Well,
what comes to mind when you think of a lot of things that happened?
well, one of the things that we were called out of our names quite a bit during that time in '64 and coming out, and so there were times that, and if you understand what I'm saying, the N word was used frequently.
Okay.
Regarding Afro-Marines. So for people coming from Philadelphia and having a DI from one from Mississippi and other from Alabama hollering at you and calling you that, it got somewhat stressful.
And
The
DI
DI
is what?
Drill instructors. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
Okay.
Drill instructors.
Okay.
Right. So
And these DIs were Caucasian?
yes, yes, oh yes. You didn't see many Afro-American drill instructors during that time. There were some, however, very few.
Now, do you recall any of the drill instructors, any of the drill instructors' names and the relationship you have with them? And if so, what were they like? What was that relationship like with them?
Well,
Good and bad.
Staff Sergeant Kennan was one. I mean, the other one was Klein. Klein was the senior. Gunnery Sergeant Klein was the senior drill instructor. As far as the good and the bad, I'll share this with you. There were times when we were being called out of our names and so forth, and they would call us. We would have intramural sports between each other, other platoons, where we had track and field and pugil stick fighting, things like that. And it was kind of like he was said, "Give me my dark Marines to come up," you know, and you had no choice. We automatically ran track because they figured, you know, all my dark Marines, we know y'all can run. That type of language. And I guess the funny part about it, our platoon was standing in formation one time when another drill instructor came, and we were just there standing, waiting on the rest of our people to come out from, well, we call it the chow hall. The chow hall is the dining facility. And they said, the N-word was saying, you know, don't eyeball me with the N-word. And it was somewhat difficult. However, our drill instructor overheard him. And I thought that he was going to go into fisticuffs. And he said that no one calls my Marines or my people that. And I'm just listening and saying, wait a minute, he calls that all the time. But he said that's for him to do, nobody else. So it made us feel a little different at that point. Oddly enough, it did. But one thing I will say, to make a long story short, after graduation, the drill instructors got all together and told us the reason why he did that. And he said, is that when you go into combat, there will be a lot of things that the enemy will do to get you off your game and will say a lot of things to you. And we know that using that word to you guys, that you tend to lose yourself. But the fact is that you stayed calm and you held your cool. And he said that was a part of the training. He said there was no malice involved. That was a part of the training. And then so then I understood.
And Sergeant Major, where exactly was camp? What state, what city was camp? Boot camp.
Boot camp was in Paris Island, South Carolina.
So I'm going to ask a follow-up to that. So then, again, coming from Philadelphia and then coming to South Carolina.
It was a culture shock.
Okay. How so?
It was a culture shock because, for several reasons. I've never been that far south in my life. As a young kid out of high school, you know, I've never been south because in '64, you know, the rumors and everything they talked about being south was not the good way. You don't go there, you know, unless you have to, you know. So it was rough. I think one of the things that really affected me, to a devastating point, coming out, going to my first duty station, which was in California, given extra training and riot training. Because if you remember during the 60s, during that time, they were concerned about blacks overrunning the military base there, and so we were all trained, riot training. Well, you cannot imagine how I felt realizing that here I am, may have to shoot or whatever people who are fighting for my rights. And it was a hard thing for a 17-year-old kid to digest. The fact is that here I am being trained to do stuff like that, and it still bothers me to this very day to even sometimes talk about it because I remember what I had gone through. The fact is that me and a couple other black Marines saying, hey, we're going to be out there and have to fight these people, and they're fighting for our rights.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how could we do this? And it was a lot of. I'm glad and thank God it never got to that point, but there was a lot of training for us to that. It was a deep thing.
Oh, high school in Philly, segregated still?
No,
or
no,
not?
never
So,
was.
I'm saying, what's the difference
No.
between the North and South?
Well, we all went to school together,
Okay.
blacks and whites.
Mhm.
So I've never, as a matter of fact, and to tell you just how ignorant we were, and I say ignorant because at that time, right now, is mass communication, the news and so forth. But the only news pretty much that you got as a kid that time was from the Jet magazine and Ebony. I mean, so you didn't get things that happened until the lynching of Emmett Till broke out. And then that's when we knew that it is still going on in the South. Because people, and I can remember growing up, we never even thought about that. I mean, it was no issue to us because we all went to school together. And no one, sure you had neighborhoods you couldn't go to, but that's anywhere.
Right.
But the point is that when we went to school together, we played football together.
Okay, so football team was into
Yeah, and football. All the sports were. So it was no issue.
You can ask this.
Yeah, Sergeant Major Hines had, I believe the year was 1964, and Dr. Tate can correct me if I'm wrong, but had the 3 civil rights workers been killed in Philadelphia, Mississippi when you were enlisted?
Yeah, I was in the Marine Corps at that time.
When it happened?
Yes.
And what were your thoughts about that? What were the thoughts of the other black Marines with respect to that?
Unfortunately, we didn't hear enough about it to really know anything about it. Or we just heard people were killed. It was no coverage of that. When you have to understand. We're on a military base, so to be privy, and there wasn't a whole lot on the news about it at that time. So you had to read the papers and whatever. But how many 18-year-old people read the papers? We didn't. So it wasn't. It was. It wasn't. It sure it bothered us, whatever. But at this point, it was a thing at a time. We realized we couldn't do anything about it.
Did you receive any specialized training, and if so, what was the training?
Specialized? What do you mean specialized training? Like what?
Being a lay person myself, sniper training first thing comes to mind, or any
Over and above basic training, did you then?
Hand-to-hand combat. That was pretty much.
Okay. And what's involved in?
I'm a 3rd-degree black belt that I learned when I was in the military. So I got to that point. And then I instructed other Marines how to do, hand-to-hand combat.
So hand-to-hand combat included martial arts training?
Yes.
Is that pretty standard in the military?
To a point. It all depends on where you're at, But, it's always good to know at that time.
So was that instructor, do you remember that person's name?
I want to say David Dow was his name. And one name was Gonzalez. I know a boy from New York City.
Mm-hmm.
I'll never forget him. He was Puerto Rican. That's the reason why I never forget him.
Okay.
Because most of the instructors were Japanese. So, yeah. But he was one of the 2 American. David and him was one of the 2 Americans.
So how did he come on?
Well, I don't know. Well, because he started, he was there. He got there way before I did, and he learned. So.
Okay. Sergeant Major, how did you adapt to military life, including the physical regiment, the barracks, the food,
Very
and
easily.
the social life?
Very easily.
Okay.
Reason being, when I say very easily, because I was a Boy Scout, so I did a lot of camping. I knew that, and my father was a World War II vet. So when we growing up, we always had to shine our shoes. We had to iron our clothes if we wanted to iron up stuff, and then that was somewhat pretty much, military. You did what you had to do and you did it. So it was not. And I played football, so I was pretty much in shape. So, sure it was tough, but as far as adapting to it, I just had to dig deep. That's all. But I knew about competing. I knew about, and that's what the Marine Corps was. You compete. So I knew what that was all about.
Now I understand. Adapting was easy because your dad was a World War II veteran and things of that nature. But coming from Philadelphia, home of the cheesesteak, and all the great food that you guys have, surely there had to be some sort of acclimation to food down south compared to food up north. Being from Chicago, I know there's definitely a difference.
Well, here's the thing. When you're in the military, it's not like food down south anymore. It's like food nowhere else that you can have. Sure. Okay, I understand more what you're saying. Sure, there was a period of dysentery, I mean, there was a period I had to run. You know what I mean? It was yeah, that was adjusting. That was some adjusting, but other than that, I mean, you didn't get a whole lot of good food. No, I don't think anything was good that I can remember eating. But the fact is that we knew that the food wasn't there designed for our taste. It was designed for our survival.
And the social life, being a member of the football team, and being in Philadelphia, a big urban city, so that sense of camaraderie was already there, and that was easy for you as well.
Social life. When you say social life and camaraderie is always there in the Marine Corps. We always had that. And basic training and all like that. No, you didn't have that in it. But once you got out, people tend to, the boys up north hung with the boys up north. Boys up south tried to hang with the boys up north. So that's how it worked. So we hung together. So social life and camaraderie, it was pretty. And I get along with people pretty easy anyway. So I never had any problem with that. Yeah.
Now in 1964. Social life, boys up south and north hanging together. Was it the Negro soldiers, African American soldiers with one another, and Caucasian soldiers with one another, or was there a mingling of all of you?
It was mostly, African American. However, there were some whites from the South that wanted to hang with up north. And then I'll give you a story that I recall. And there was a boy from Arkansas, and I can't recall his name at this point, but we became pretty close. And because growing up, our parents never taught us prejudice. We treat everybody the same. And dads always say there's going to be some blacks you're not going to like, and there's going to be some whites you're not going to like. Mm-hmm. But treat everybody as the same, So that's the kind of golden rule I grew up with. However, in this fact, and his name will come to me in a minute, from Arkansas, we got pretty close. And one day he said to me, do you mind if I call you Nig? And I happened to do the same thing. I looked at him and I said, what the hell are you talking about? Excuse me, maybe I'm not supposed to say that, I guess, but and he said, what the heck are you talking about? And he said his close friend back home that he had a black person, and they would call him Nig. And I said no, and I told him, Jeff was his name. Now I said, Jeff, man, you can't call just like that, because that can cause you to get hurt. He said that's offensive to us, and he never knew it. At that time, there were some whites who never been around blacks in any other way, and just didn't know what they were saying. And if someone grew up that way, they thought it was natural to call somebody that, and it would surprise me. To me, it was kind of different, because how can you not know? Mm-hmm. But if you don't associate with them, or you don't worry about it. I mean, he was a farm boy. He grew up on a farm, and he invited me home one time to come to visit him, and I was going to do it. And another friend of mine had gone home with him. There was 2 or 3 of us, and the other 2 guys was a white guy, and I was the only black, and we were going to go to his farm, because he had a big farm down there in Arkansas. But he came back and told me, he said they had a picture of all of us together, his family had it, but mine was torn out. And they said, well, how you know? Because you said, we could just see your hand on the shoulder, but your picture wasn't there, but we knew it was you, because he remembered taking the picture. And I said, I'm glad I didn't go. I don't know how I could have dealt with that. And plus, I wasn't at that time, 64, I wasn't really too anxious to go to Arkansas anyway, so. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's social. To answer your question, I know I went about it a long way, but it was different. It was different.
Mm-hmm. Now, your dad again. I want to go back to a question about your dad. What was your father's name again?
Ernest Hines, Sr.
Ernest Hines Sr. Mm-hmm. Your father served in World War II. You said what
World
branch of the military?
He was in the Army.
He was in the Army.
Mm-hmm.
And did he share with you what the experience was like before you went off to camp, being young and 17?
All the time.
All the time. Could you share some of the information, some of the stories he shared with you?
He was on Saipan, where the Marines had just taken over, and the Army was coming like a cleanup crew, and a lot of times, and he was one of, I guess, what you call work with ammunition dumping and maintenance, because a lot of the blacks in World War II didn't really get involved. Only certain units that got involved in certain activities. A lot of them were stewards, maintenance men, or whatever. I have an uncle that was in the Navy during that time, during World War II, served at one of the battleships. And Bob Matthews is his name. And Uncle Bobby's telling me that his job was, when the Marines would hit the beach, and then the ones that got killed, as they were floating back, the bodies were floating back, his job was to pull out the dog tags off them so they can, account for the dead. So, I mean, those kind of jobs. But Dad was working in the ammunition area. So he would go back into the lines, bringing ammunition in the truck.
And how long was your father in the military?
I think 2 years.
2 years.
Yeah, 1 or 2 years. During that time, he didn't go long, and he was glad to get out. Did his time. I think that was a normal time, normal service time. Even when I went in, the draft was only 2 years during that time. Mm-hmm. So when he told me about it, he always told me how when he had gone to Saipan that the Marines were half-eaten bodies, where the Japanese had eaten them just to. I don't know if he was trying to scare me or what, but that's what they did to survive. A lot of the different places that he had to go. I know he was on Saipan, and he told me that this was devastating.
Now, Sergeant Major, I want you to clarify something for me. Who was eating bodies?
He mentioned the Japanese bodies were eating the American bodies to survive. Some of the food that they did, when they ran out of food, that's what they ate.
Okay. Now, I want to ask you about your grandfather. Could you share that fact with myself and Dr. Tate?
My great-grandfather.
Or 3 times great.
Yeah, I have no idea. I don't know nothing about it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But
he served in the Civil War. Yes, I have a discharge that he served in the Civil War in the Union Army with the unit in Delaware. He was in the Delaware unit.
And his name?
It was Brown.
Brown was his last name. Don't ask me. I don't recall right off the hand. I mean, he's so far removed. Yeah, but I'll think of it in a few minutes. But it's on the discharge paper.
Now, this is your father's?
No.
On your father's side or your mother's side?
It's on my father's side.
So how did that paper get to you or passed down?
Well, it was passed down from my grandmother, who, and see, the other side is a Brown, and and she was the second oldest daughter, and then when it went down to the oldest, and then they just gave it to my grandmother, and my grandmother, rather than give it to the oldest, because the 2 oldest, her sisters had 2 other sons, and that was Uncle Bobby, which was in the Navy, and then Uncle Oscar, which was in the Navy, and they were already gone, and Dad was still there going into the Army, so she kept it. So my grandmother kept it, and then when she was starting to pass, she gave it to Dad, and then Dad had it, and then it was kind of like I'll never forget it. It was an envelope with a whole bunch of pieces in it. And he told me that it was the discharge of our great-great-grandfather from the Union Army that he served in the Delaware unit. And he gave it to me. And, I kind of think, yeah, right. I didn't believe it. But he gave it to me before he passed. And he asked me to hold on to it. And he said, okay, what you do with it? He said, just pass it on. He said, if you restore it or whatever. And I asked him, I said, Dad, are you serious? He said, this is what this is? He said, yeah. But I want you to he said, that's what they told me, because no one wanted to get it done. So it's been in paper. It's all in a little bag for years and years and years.
Starting to crumble.
It was crumbling.
Yeah.
I mean, but I kept it. And then the wife encouraged me to get it done, because, I said, we have 4 sons. And she said, they might like to have that. So I said, okay.
Now, reflecting back on your military service, and then your father's military service, and your couple of uncles that served as well, what does it mean to you now, knowing what you know now and having come through the military, to know that you have a great, great, great ancestor, grandfather, who served in the Civil War?
What does it mean to me?
Yes.
Well, there's a couple. One side of me means that for a long time, people thought that minorities or blacks were not fighting some of these wars that we had. I mean, people realized it, but they didn't think we had any big significance in it, and it just made me proud that I had that I had something to show that my family fought in that battle too. I was just it's other than that, that's pretty much what it was.
It's a long line of patriotism, though.
Yeah,
What
it
would you
is.
say?
Yeah, it is. If you want to call it that.
What would you call it? I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Well, you might find that people say a whole lot of things about why we fought and why we do certain things in the country, but me and a lot of the people I know, whatever, a lot of blacks, we fought for dignity, patriotism. It's kind of hard to fight for patriotism during that time when you didn't have all the same rights as everybody else, and you was willing to give your life. So you fought for dignity to let people know that I'm somebody. And then if enough of us fought, and it would be eventually people would realize that we are a part of this country. So I did it for that, and I think most of us, people might say all kinds. I'm not going to give you a canned speech that I'm down here for the red, white, and blue. I mean, sure, I love this country, but my point is that when you're in combat, you ain't thinking about red, white, and blue at the time. You're thinking about the guy next to you, and that's who you fight for, and you fight for him and your survival. That's the only thing that's the only thing that's on your mind.
Are you about to move on to the next section?
Yes.
I was just going to ask. So you mentioned the 11 that you grew up with, and you all went in.
Yeah.
Were they in your same regiment?
No.
They went.
But
other
they were
places?
all over. Yeah, well, we saw each other in Vietnam, and fortunately, only one of them of the 11 got killed in Vietnam. Several of them got wounded. But I saw quite a few of them in Vietnam, and that was always good to see somebody from home.
Right.
There, so we had a lot to talk about, so it was pretty cool.
What did you talk about when you guys got back together and started to reminisce about being over there for those years?
When we got back, you mean?
Yes. Or what you talk about when you were there?
Oh, when we talked about, what we shared there was the latest news from home. Did you hear about so-and-so? Did you know so-and-so got married? Or so-and-so is pregnant? Okay. That kind of stuff, or whatever, which name's in jail, something like that, Just the news of your other classmates, your other friends, so-and-so joined the Navy, hey, why did he join the Navy, but it was just catching up to home, and, so that was the good part about it.
Okay, Sergeant Major, next question I want to pose to you is, where did you serve? What part of the world?
You mean as far as combat or just the world period?
Both.
Both places? Mm-hmm. Well, I served pretty much all over the East. Combat, I served in Chulai, our unit in Chulai in '65. I was there in Chulai, and I went back again after the Tet offenses in '60. I went back in '69. I went to Da Nang that time, and I was in Da Nang.
And then some of the other places that you were.
Other places I was in Japan, Philippines, Korea, Hawaii. I've been through a lot of different places.
What are some of your memories with respect to these different places you've been in? What countries left were most impressionable to you with respect to your fondest memories, and then some of your worst memories about having been in those foreign lands?
Well, ain't nothing about Vietnam was good for me. So I was just glad to get out of there. The first time in Vietnam, I was like a gun-ho soldier. I'm 18 years old, 17, just about 18, and we always thought we was invincible. Even though when you saw people get killed, hit, you always thought that wasn't going to happen to you. You always thought that, that ain't me, and then but when the second time I went back in '69, at that time I was married, and a baby on the way. So I wasn't as crazy as I was the first time. I was a little bit more cautious and realizing that I could leave this place, because here I'm on my second tour. At that time you didn't think, second tour, that's the odds are against you now. So it's a whole lot. It's a big difference there. Those are some of the good things about it. Again, when my son was born, the Red Cross came on a helicopter and I was out in the bush and told me that I had a baby boy. So that was great. But as most people say, the bad part about it is that I lost a lot of good friends. Other places, I didn't like Korea too much. I went to Korea because I went there for cold weather training. You know, brothers don't like cold weather. so I was there for a while with cold weather training. That wasn't too good. I went to the Philippines on Liberty. That was beautiful, and I enjoyed that.
Japan and Hawaii.
Japan was nice. Hawaii, I just been there for a little while, wasn't there long. Japan was nice. I spent a couple of years in Japan out of my 24-year career. I spent several years there in Japan, and I enjoyed that because of some of the cultures and some of the things. And the funny part about it, being there in 64, 65, and right out in the mid parts of Vietnam, coming back and forth from Japan. One of the funny things about it, after the '64 Olympics in Japan, you know, a lot of the blacks was conceived in Japan as supermen. You know what I mean? They were running all, you know, because they won all those medals during the '64 Olympics. And then some of my training in karate, I had gone up. I was invited to go up into the Buddhist temple to be up there for, I was like a week and a half, 2 weeks. And then when they get up there in what's the Oshima, I believe it was. And then going up there, a lot of them never been close to a black person, and they just start doing this to you, you know. And that was funny, and I didn't know what the heck they were doing. They were trying to see if it came off. I said, no, it don't come off. But there was something different. Being in a place where people have never think that is something that I don't know how to express that. You know, you want to be on your P's and Q's. You want to do the righteous thing, because there is certain rituals that they have in their Buddhist religion and stuff. So you want to be respectful. So it was the food was a little different, you know. The raw squid, some of the food, you know. Here again, we got the runs. But I carry a lot of that kale pectate peanut butter. So,
Trying to balance that out.
Okay, right.
Now, if you were on the front lines, what combat action did you witness or did you participate in yourself? If you could share with us as much as you can.
Yeah. You know, I mean, I'm no different than many other individuals. I was attached to a CAG unit, and we call it CAG unit is Civil Action Platoon, and the Civil Action Platoon was a unit that they put us with the villagers, in the Vietnamese villages, and our job was to work with what we call PFs, Popular Forces. That was the Vietnamese troops. So, and we were there training them how to defend their villages. So we would go on patrols and different things like that with them, and worked up a type of rapport where if they told us if Viet Cong was in the area or whatever, they would let us know, or sometimes they would tell us that we're going to be hit that night, you know, so we would be prepared for them. And then a lot of times they would tell us where they see them. Some of the villagers was telling us whenever there's some activities, and then we would go on patrols and do ambushes, stuff like that. So yeah, it was different. It was different. I don't know. It's like anything else, you know. I got real religious. I still got the Bible that my mother had sent me to carry with me in Vietnam. I still have that thing, and so we're talking over 50 years, and I still have it. And I just keep it in my breast pocket. Now, did I read a whole lot of it? Nope. But, you know, it's like a cross. You know, we just rub it every now and then. So I would pat that book, you know. So every time before I go out on a patrol, you know, I pat that book. And then, hey, he spared me. I'm here to talk about it.
Did you share that with your mother by any chance?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And, oh, man, gosh, when I came back home, she jumped up, almost threw me down. I mean, you know, she just, you know, she was, you know, I could see the joy in her face to see me, you know. She wanted me to go to church with her that day, you know. And you know, when you get back, you know, that's the last thing you think about. And I hate to say it, but it's the truth, you know. But I went with her, you know. want you to wear your uniform. So I went to church with mom and did all that, you know. But in the long run, her prayers brought me home. And then I try to do the same thing, the wife and I, to teach our kids the same thing, you know. So,
Can we hold on this?
sure.
So the answer machine got it now.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a how you say it? Trying to call us, but they didn't leave a message.
Okay.
Hi, it's about 7:45. My phone battery has...
Back on now. Okay.
Sergeant Major Hines, what were some of your daily duties, or just the daily duties of some of the other military personnel, but a person at your rank at the time when you came into the military? What were some of the daily?
Oh, you mean when I came in?
When you came in, and then let's start with when you came in.
Well, when I came in, you know, it's like everybody else, I was private. And my daily duty was just to do menial work. I mean, kitchen work, cleaning work, garbage work, you know, I mean, that's what I did, you know. And as I got, you know, the work got different as I, you know, progressed in rank. So, yeah.
How do you go about
Well,
moving up the the ladder?
Interesting question. Half of it is by doing what you're told, believe it or not. Doing what you're told and your presentation of yourself. In other words, you know, you always had to stay pressed and ready all the time. You had to be able to do, you know, and when they had the physical fitness test, we call it PRT, I mean, you had to top that all the time. You had to be first class. That would help. When you can arrange, you had to be a marksman. You had to be an expert shooter, but the pistol and rifle. Those things make points, you know. And if you was to go to school at night, you know, try to better yourself, you know, some education and stuff like that, that would help. So by doing all like that, and that's a big part of it, but it also a part of how you get along with the other individuals. Do you do what you're told? You know, do you give up lip? You know, and you see it all the time. It's like, case in point, you might say, you know, Private Hines, why don't you go clean up there? And I say, well, I cleaned it up last time. Why don't you get somebody else to do it? That's the kind of lip they don't like. They say do something, you jump and do it. Even though you might have done it several times before. And sure, and there's been times where minorities been given extra work, not shared, and it's not been equal. Mm-hmm. And there's been times when we have not been promoted because of our race. So, and you can see that too. And most people tell you that has happened. The grace of God, and then sometimes just having a good mentor will help. Somebody could talk for you, you know, fight for you, saying that this is a good man, and then that helps. So that's pretty much how you do it. We're not like the other branches. Other branches, believe it or not, give you a written test, and then how you pass the test, and then they get so many at that. In the Marine Corps at that time when I went in, there was no test. Your test was your performance, not on a piece of paper. Performance.
Now, you mentioned that you went into the service with 11 other men from the neighborhood.
Well, we went in at the same period of time, not the exact same time, but in a period of 3 months, it was 11 of us men in together.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned that there were times over in Vietnam that you interacted with some of them.
Yes.
Do you have any relationship, not necessarily with them, but with other persons that you met in the military? Relationships, friendships that you still have now?
Yeah. Well, there's the ones that there's still about 5 of us that I still socialize with, that we grew up together. I still socialize with them. There was quite a few others, but unfortunately, I can't socialize with them more. There's some drug abuse. There's some mental illness. There's some things that we just don't socialize with. But out of the 11, it's about 5 of us, and there's out of those 5, the other ones are passed, are gone, and for various illness, you know, and just like I got a claim in now myself, because they said the Agent Orange that we had during the Vietnam, so I'm claiming that now. It took so long to do it, and so I got paperwork processed and doing it now because the fact is that I am a diabetic, and they said, and plus I have some heart issues, and all that was a part of Agent Orange. So that's some of the things that I'm working on now. But unfortunately, there's some of the individuals that was now long gone.
How did you stay in touch with your family back home when you initially went into the military?
Believe it or not, we did a thing we call write letters. I know that's something unheard of now, but that's who we did. Everybody wrote, we wrote letters. Well, no, we didn't have your stamp, because when you're in the military, the places, your mail was free. So all you had to just write and just put on there, that's it, free. And then they went, and the government did take care of us that way. They didn't charge us for stamps.
Anybody got any of those letters? Did you write to your wife? Did she
Yeah, you know what? And I was talking to my grandson, and I was talking to people today. He said, what I'm going to do on my 70th birthday? And I said, if I live to be 70, and like I said again, I was 69 now, what I'm going to do is write each one of them a letter and just tell them to hold on to it. Because, all these years, all the letters I've grown up, I maybe can find one from my mother had written me when I was in Vietnam. And it's a shame that I have no documentation, no record of all the letters. My mom wrote me at least once a week when I was in Vietnam. Once a week, religiously. And if I didn't write her once a month, Dad would say, I had to, because, like you said again, and she would see all the casualties on there, and she didn't know if I was one of the casualties or not, and it just drove her crazy. So I had to write her just to keep her going on and stuff, so.
What do you remember of those letters? What was she writing, telling you?
Oh, yes, I remember. She remembered to always say my prayers. Pretty much keep your head down, and don't be no hero. Because she know how I get to be sometime. Not to say I'm a hero, but I don't know. I was a Marine. I'm still a Marine.
She said, let somebody else run in front of that bullet.
Well, I don't know. But she was just writing different things about the family. Kept me in touch with what was going on with my sister. And I shared with you, my sister had died in '78, very young age. She had cancer, and so she was in and out of the hospital for about 5 or 6 years prior to that. So she'd always, but I never knew she had cancer. Mom never would tell me, because she was worried about that I'd be worried about her. She was just telling me that Vivian's sick, and she's in the hospital, but she'd be okay. But when I got home, I found out that she had cancer. No one never told me, and that was something disheartening. And I almost got to the point where I didn't want to talk to my family, because I didn't believe. Why didn't you tell me? And their reason is they didn't want me to worry, But to me, I worry about her. If you say she's in the hospital, what difference does it make? But anyway, I understood.
Now, your wife and when did you all meet? And did you and your family go to these different places?
No,
And with
no.
her, she stayed.
Yeah, no, she stayed.
Okay.
As a Marine, and then we didn't travel with our families much. We were pretty much the only branch that didn't. Army, Air Force, Navy did. A lot of Marines didn't. Because what had happened, usually when we go to a place, if something was to happen, we got to get up and move. We got to go to that area. And if that happens, they just didn't have what they're going to do with the families. So,
now, Sergeant Major, this is throughout your time in the military?
pretty much.
Really?
How's that on the relationship?
Well, this is my second marriage.
Okay.
That answer that question?
It does. Got it now.
Sergeant Major, what did you do for recreation when you were off duty in your time in the military? When you were off duty?
Pretty much went to school.
You went to school, and you were studying?
I was studying, I wanted to take up psychology at that time, and then I started changing. So I used my GI Bill to get my master's degree, through Pepperdine University. So, no, I went to school. And then I did a lot of adjunct teaching at the junior colleges and stuff like that, yeah. So I was an adjunct professor there.
Okay. So master's degree from Pepperdine, using GI Bill, undergrad degree?
Elon College.
Elon College. And was that in psychology, or was it?
It was in human resources.
Human resources.
Yeah, and then I got that through the military had sent me there. They had what they have, academic scholarship. You know, so I was, you know, sometimes I'm a little smarter than I look. You know, so and I made the grade, and they sent me there to finish. They took me right out of the Marine Corps, and I went to school full time for 3 years. Best duty I had in my life, because I was still getting military pay. And can you imagine getting military pay on a college campus? Oh my gosh.
And where was this?
At Elon, and that's in North Carolina.
You know.
Yeah, right outside of Greensboro, close to A&T University.
Best time of your life.
Best time of my life.
What made it so enjoyable?
Because, man, I was making money. I mean,
Paid to study.
I had a brand new car. I mean, you know, and then plus, you know, I was working at the radio station at night. I was a DJ at night and part time, so I was making some money there too, you know. So, and then it was just great, you know. And I was going to college. I mean, and I didn't have to wear my high and tight that the Marines wore. They said all you want me to do. They said, look, you didn't even have to come in. They'll mail my check to me. I mean, I had one of the biggest froze you ever want to see, you know. So these kids now with the braids now, they don't realize we did that one in the 60s and 70s. We had braids and big froze and stuff, you know. So that's what I had. With my sandals and stuff, you know, I went to partying, you know. I had a good time.
What years were you at Elon University?
I was there, well, I was Elon College. It's university now, but it was Elon College when I went there. From 77 to 79.
And you and I are fraternity brothers.
No question.
Brothers. Proud members of Omega Psi Phi
Absolutely.
Fraternity Incorporated.
No question.
Founded November 17th, 1911 on the Howard University's campus in
And
Washington,
no question.
D.C. Where were you initiated into the
I was initiated in Sigma Pi in South Carolina. And what happened, and one of the reasons why I got initiated in the grad chapter, because Elon College was a predominantly white university. It was only 2% black. It didn't have any black organizations at all on it. So we were going to go over with A&T, several of us in the group, but and that's about 20 miles away. And as you know, through pledging, it was somewhat difficult traveling 20 miles to pledge. And then we had to put that on hold. But as soon as I graduated and got transferred, then I went over.
You were transferred where?
To Augusta.
Augusta.
Yeah. And then I went over to South Carolina.
And so what year were you initiated into Omega Psi Phi
84,
Fraternity Incorporated?
1984.
1984. And what has been your experience while in Omega?
Oh man. I guess it's almost like the Marine Corps camaraderie. I mean, everybody, you know, once you see Marines, you know, the old question that people always are saying, Marines have been, once a Marine, always a Marine. And Omegas, you know, they have that same tightness, you know, the same group. So once you're acute, whether you're financial or unfinancial, but I'm financial, mind you. So, but it's all the same. I've been a lot of places, and it really, in traveling around, the fraternity has helped me acclimate to whatever town. I mean, when I get transferred, when I was in the military, I went to places, I had no relatives, no nothing in places, you know. And then, but I'll go into a frat meeting or a frat party. I mean, I had all the brothers in the world there, you know. Then they started introducing me to people and showing me this person, where to go to church. They said, this church staff, you need a doctor. This brothers, they know a doctor. I mean, it was like, you know, it was just like family, you know. So every place I've gone, there's always been there for me.
Sergeant Major Hines, where were you stationed when the Vietnam War ended?
Ended around 71, 72. Where was I at? Oh. I was in, I want to say Camp Lejeune, North Carolina.
And how did you return home to Philadelphia? What year did you return home, and how was it when you returned home?
Gosh, I didn't. I retired. I stayed in the Marine Corps, so I didn't, you know, I was always gone every time I got. The only time, well, I take that back. The only time when I got to Philadelphia, and I'll go back a little bit, and I don't want to take I'll go back. When I went over in '65, a young man, I was 17 years old. You know, actually just turned 18. Had gone to Vietnam. When I got back in '66, at that time, it wasn't that many people that had gone to Vietnam. So in '66, I was a veteran. I was big cheese on the base. I had got, then it promoted me to sergeant and everything else. So I was a leader, because, and then 67, 68, 66, I got back. And the commandant had mentioned to all that there'd be no one would have to go back to Vietnam unless every Marine has already gone. So with that in mind, I got pretty serious with this young lady. And I got married young. I was 21 years old. Got married, and then got married. I met her in '66, latter part of '66, '67, and we got married in the middle in July of '68. And then I went back to, and I had orders going back to Vietnam in '69. Well, at that time, when I got orders to go back in '69, I said, well, damn, I know the Marine Corps is small, but I didn't think it was that small. But I went back to Vietnam, and I got coached back. My mother worked for the Republican Party. Believe this or not, in Philadelphia, Mom worked at the polls. She was a Democrat, but she worked for the Republican Party because Mom knew how to get things done. And in the neighborhood, if you worked for the Republic, a lot of times they did stuff for, they always try to get blacks to be Republican. So Mom did that stuff. And I used to always ask her, so why you was a Republican? Well, anyway, make a long story short, Mom said, they don't know what I vote when I get in that closet. So, I vote Democrat, but I always act Republican. So I said, you're right, Mom, I guess you're right. So she knew some people that could have got me out of going the second time. And she said she didn't want to go through this again. And she was going to do that. And I begged her, I said, Mom, please. I said, this is my job, this is what I do. And the colonel had talked to me and told me, he said, look, he said, I got some calls, you really want to get out of this? And he said, you could save lives because you've been there before. You know what to expect. You know how to train these guys. You know how to get them through. And he got to the old heart of me, and I said, yeah, I'll go. So I went.
Now, in between that time of your first tour and then your second tour, how did you adjust to civilian life just in between those couple of years?
Well, I wasn't a civilian. That's the reason why there was no adjustment. See, one key thing that happened to a lot of people, and people don't realize, when I got back, and as many other people got back, there's a lot of things. We had a lot of issues. I say issues. But you're in an environment where everybody has gone to Vietnam or doing those things, then you're talking out of it. See what happens when people come home, a lot of veterans, they don't talk about it, keep it in. Because there's nobody to talk to, because no one's been there to deal with that. And that's how some of them get messed up. So, but when you're on base with other Marines who've gone there, so when you go to the club, you're drinking and you're talking, you're letting it out, so it's not being built up anymore. So now you're sharing with other guys and other people sharing their experience. So that helped me, believe it or not. That helps because you're talking about it. So that was a situation there. But as far as some of the things that I witnessed, with friends, I was the only one that stayed in. Of all 11 of them, everybody got up except me. I was the only one that stayed in. And to see some of how they adjust and how they did some things, it was difficult. They all had problems, every last one of them. Two of them joined the police department. One of them stayed. George stayed. He was a sheriff. He stayed until he retired. Donald was a police maybe about 6 months, 7 months, and then he got involved in something, and then they kicked him off. But all the rest of them, they were police. They were this and that. One was a security, in charge of security for Philadelphia Navy Yard, and then he had cancer and died. So most of the people that's unfortunate, most of the people of my friends that died and passed was from cancer. Mm. And then we all say it was Agent Orange.
I was, as a follow-up, I'd like to understand, I think the question is asking like when the war ended, so that wherever you were, what was your feeling? You've been there, you've been in combat.
Oh, I was
getting that news.
It was great, but it was still we lost. Mm-hmm. So it's not it's good that we out of there, but we lost. We could have, those people who served in Vietnam realized that we could have won that war, but once the politicians took over to a point, unfortunately, things were prolonged. So, but it was a lot of reflection, and the reflection of the people that you lost, and then people that lost their lives, and you ask yourself why. It was some deep thought that went into it. I do remember that, and even some of the friends we called and talked to each other. Why were we there? What happened? But the thing about it is that as a career military, as a professional soldier, is the question, and some of the people say, it's not the question who or why, it's just that you do or die. So, but it means is whatever the country says go, regardless you disagree with it, you don't like it, you do what you're told. This is what we do. That's what soldiers do. It's not good, nothing to brag about, it's not what it is. When you chose that career, those are the things you take with it.
Well, what was the sentiment on the ground, or your civilians that you're around, because this wasn't a war that they approved of? So what was that like? Because you're not coming back as the hero necessarily.
Yeah, I didn't have really too big of a problem with them. I mean, other people did, because I didn't take any mess. The point is that if you weren't there, so you can't tell me nothing. And if you didn't like it, okay, fine. You had it was your choice to disagree. I fought to give you that choice. So don't come to me and telling me what the deal is. You had a choice because I gave you a choice. And so many people gave blood to give you a choice. So I didn't take any mess. So I didn't have no problem.
Have you remained in contact or reunited with any other fellow veterans? And if so, who and where?
Yeah, several of them. Usually on Memorial Day, a couple of us, someone's getting old now, so we talk on the phone. But we used to get together, quite a few. Sergeant Major Thomas, used to be Sergeant Major Willie Jones. We used to call him Hogbait, but he passed last year. Then Sergeant Major Summers, I talk to him every so often. I'm sorry, Sergeant Major Summers, and I talked to him. See who else? I talked to Donald Andrews, George Hill, Charlie Whitaker.
Now, when you talk to these gentlemen, what kind of conversations do you all engage in? What are some of the things you discuss?
We just discuss some things, some of the people that we were, that, hey man, I wish so-and-so could have been here, and we joke, because you have to have some type of humor or you go crazy, and then and one joke that was that comes to mind when they said, when Willie passed, and they said, Willie said, well, Willie's passed, he's being buried in South Carolina. So are you going? He said, no, I ain't going. He said, well, you're not going? He said, no, he ain't coming to my funeral. So he won't be at mine. So that's those.
See, y'all got right.
So those are the kind of things you do,
Yeah, that's a sense of humor.
Yeah, sense of humor. It's life, and it's unfortunate, but we talk about those things, and also we talk about our kids, our grandkids, and who got married, who got divorced. What kid is bumming off us, and other kid is doing something. So we complain about them and we love them, but pretty much what we talk about is our kids.
Now, Sergeant Major, when we spoke over the phone in the setting up of the interview here, you mentioned to me some work that you're doing with respect to assisting veterans. Can you share with us what that work is?
Yeah, what I do as a volunteer, I work with Cobb County Veterans Court, and that work happens, and as a mentor. And what we do, we work with Iranian, Afghanistan veteran soldiers or military persons who come back from the war that have issues, and some of the issues, some homelessness, and try to find them housing through shelters and find them through other organizations. There's some of them to get incarcerated by just different stuff, One thing Georgia has that I've never seen in none of the states I've gone through, in all the states I've been involved in, Georgia have a thing that they have Veterans Court, And here in Georgia, if you get caught on whatever the charge, it be a misdemeanor, whatever it is, you have an opportunity, if you go through the Veterans Court program, to have that erased off your record, like it never even happened. I mean, you know, and the guy I'm mentoring, I mean, he got caught with drugs and some cocaine and stuff, and the judge, and you had to go through this program. The program's 18 months long, where you have to go to counseling, and you have to go to different sessions throughout the court that they set up. So, and then and you got to take urinalysis. They spot check you on urinalysis. But if you can do that and stay, you know, clean through that 18-month program without any infractions, your record is clean. I've never seen that before in any system. I mean, you got caught, you got caught. He put you on probation, that's it. Mm-hmm. But what I mean is when you leave and when you completed this program, your record's a sponge. There's no trace of that it's like being a juvenile back in the city. Mm-hmm. You know, they cover it up and that's it. But, and I talked to my mentors, my mentees, and I said, man, you've been given a second chance. You know, don't blow it, you know. So we sit and talk to them. We help them out. We talk to them the best we can. Because, you know, and most of all the mentees, all the mentors are prior military people, whether they be, most of us are Vietnam vets, or some Afghanistan, some whatever, Samoan. We've all fought in different areas. So we talk to these veterans, and they kind of listen to us because they now, in other words, they know we have been where you're at. So, and then plus, when we got back from Vietnam, we didn't get, it wasn't the pat on the back or try to help you. It was kind of like you was a drug addict, threw you on the streets or whatever. But as you notice right now, the country has did a complete 180. Veterans now are being really, you know, thing you always hear, thank you for your service and all this and that. We never heard that in the 60s, and no one said that. I mean, when I would come flying back and forth to the airport, they got USO standing up there, clapping when guys come, you know, people in the military, grabbing them and giving them cookies and stuff. You know, I remember one time when I come through there and some old veterans and other people said, you know, congratulations or something like that. He said, what can we do to help you? And I said, suit up.
I'm on the line.
Yeah, I just said, look, you look here, I don't need no milk and cookies. I need you to put a uniform on. I need you with me. So, yeah. So no, it's a big difference, and so I do that work. And
how long have you been involved in this advocacy work?
When it first started here in Cobb County, right now I'm the assistant coordinator for the mentors, and it started in June of last year. So I've been in the program ever since.
What have you done since separating and retiring from the military?
It done as far
professional.
Professionally.
If you've done anything else professionally,
yeah,
retired
well,
military.
Again, when I came out, I became on the management team with Marriott Hotels. So I stayed there and then moved up to a directorship with Marriott, and then stayed there for several years. And then after that, I went to Gourmet Services food company as a vice president of human resources. Stayed there for several years, and then I went with Shell. Well, I formed a company. I went in business for myself, and one of the minorities that started. I had a chain. I had 12 gas stations from Shell. So my company, In Pursuit, was the name of the company, In Pursuit Inc. And so I ran that. I still had the company, so we still do consulting work or whatever. Because now it's training, and just like the Hines Dillard training, it's like my wife now. That's what she's doing now, working on the contract in Charlotte. So, but that's what
to train these franchise owners. Or
no, she diversity. So yeah, diversity training. So she does diversity training. And mine worked on diversity training, management training, and then also owners of convenience stores. Mm-hmm. So I did that. So we had 12 of them. And 2006, Shell came to us, wanted us to buy the whole stores and everything. Right now, we're managing for them. And, you know, there was only 3 of us here in Atlanta. It was me being the only black. Then you had one Caucasian. They had another Indian. The Indians pretty much ran a lot of it. But we had the biggest ones, the biggest cluster. Like I had 12, and each one of them had 20. And they wanted us to pull together and buy them all from Shell, 56 of them. But I didn't want to, that was going to be $56 million. And I didn't want to invest or get people to work with me, to work with this company. The wife and I decided, she said, Ernie, you don't want to do that. I know you. And I didn't, so I did. So I retired in 2006. And then, and every now and Shell, I did something for Exxon, did some consulting work for them, a couple people. But other than that, I hunt, I fish. I hunt every year. I fish whenever I can, and I play golf. And God is good.
Which line of work did you enjoy most? Your career in the military, or your career in corporate America?
You know, Sean, that's a hard question. I'm gonna tell you why. Because they both had its place. I enjoyed the military, but you have to understand, you know, over half my life at that time, when I retired, was military. So I enjoyed that because it afforded me to travel, to do a lot of stuff. And plus, you know, I got to meet a lot of people, and you know, and it worked for me. Corporate America, I enjoyed that because I didn't have the people on top of me all the time. In other words, I always had to answer someone. Sure, you answer to somebody I couldn't remember, but when you got your own company, you don't have nobody to answer to but you. You know, you got to make payroll. And when you're a vice president of a lot of different companies, you know, things are a little different. But to answer your question, at the age of I enjoyed the military because it afforded me to do a lot of different things. As I got older, I enjoyed corporate America because it helped me gain security and you know, stability in my future. And so, I mean, you know, investing in stocks is what I do, and the investment the wife and I have, and stuff like that, afforded me to live, both of us, okay.
Now, being a young 69 years old that you are, young spry thing.
68. I'll be 69 in September.
69. Right.
Don't put no years on me, bro.
Sergeant Major, how did your wartime experience affect your life moving forward?
Well, several things. One of the things that affected me is that knowing that life was precious. It could be gone with a bat of an eye. Realizing that makes you change your whole perspective. That you live in, that you could die tomorrow. Things can happen very quickly. And I think that's when it really opened up my spiritual side to the point I got deeper into that, because each day is a blessing. I know that I'm not doing anything but spectacular to be here another day. But the fact is that Almighty has given me an opportunity to do that. So the military showed me that, man, things can happen. As far as also it helped me out a lot. One thing, this country and other things, they love heroes. I got awarded a Brown Star in combat, and then after that, things started happening. I mean, I started getting promoted. I started getting assignments, and I remember my second tour in Vietnam. And when the colonel asked me, he said, "Ernie, where you want to go?" And I was just joking. We called me then Sergeant Hines. He said, "Where do you want to go?" I said, "I want to go home," because I really wanted to go home. Well, he took that seriously and put me on recruiting duty in Philadelphia. So, I mean, my gosh, I stayed there in Philadelphia for 3 years. That was great.
Now, you were awarded a Bronze Star?
Yeah. Brown. You say bronze or brown?
Brown Star.
Brown.
Brown Star.
Bronze, B-R-O-N-Z. Yeah.
Bronze Star.
Bronze.
Right.
And a Bronze Star is given to a person for what specifically?
It's good for two reasons. It's given for, you do something out of the ordinary, I guess, or whatever. It's a medal. It's an award for services. I got mine with the combat V, so you can get it from meritorious, whatever story, but I got mine in combat.
That's good. So during that time in your recruiting, we haven't had a chance to talk about women in the military and gays.
Oh,
so, I had to bring it
boy.
up.
Oh gosh.
So-
Okay, I was hoping you get away from that. I didn't sit on the question. I figured maybe okay. All right, shoot. What you want to know?
I want to know what it was like then.
To have women in the Marine Corps? It was different. It was okay. See, now you're talking two different time periods. See, women now have more roles now than they did in the '60s. Now, I mean, right now they can be right beside me. We can be firing a rifle in the hole together. Back in those days, they were administrative person. They handled the paperwork, the admin. They worked in the Bureau with supplies, and there were no parts of combat. They didn't get any combat at all. They was always in the rear on the ship or back at the way in the base. Now they're in combat. They're, as you've all seen, some of them being prisoners of war. So I mean, they're really doing a whole lot. Now the question is that do women really want this? I don't know if they really know what they're getting into. They want the freedom. They want the ability to do that. But maybe I don't know if some of them really know what it's all about. And then some of them do. I mean, I don't know what I guess the point is that if that's what you want to do and you qualify, then you have the opportunity. You can do it. Don't ask me how I feel about it, but
How do you feel about it?
I got mixed emotions. See, I'm old school. I'm not,
It's allowed.
and my way of thinking about how I think about it is probably old fashioned. And the old fashioned thing is that I'm looking at if you and I and John, we were in a hole together, and you got hit and you were down there wounded, then we would probably sacrifice our lives to pull you out. Where if you was another male, you would have to hold on. We'll get to you. But as a female, it's just our nature is to be protective. And to see until we get out of that, it's going to be tough because see what the enemy does. They're smart, and what they used to do, they would just like some of the devices they have. It's not to kill you; it's to maim you. And if they like a sniper would shoot at you, he wouldn't shoot to kill you; he shoot to wound you, because that way somebody has to take him. That's two people out of action. Somebody's got to take care of him. So being a female, I mean, no matter what happened, we're gonna take care of you, because that's our nature. I fought women before in Vietnam. The Viet Cong women are tough, but I mean, so.
How were the enemies using women?
Just like they are right now, just like regular soldiers. I mean, but see, the thing is, they grew up like that. I mean, they were tough, so. But, and we got some tough women in this country too, but I don't know, sometimes people might want to do it because they want to get promoted. I mean, unfortunately, if you're a combat person, if you haven't been in the war, if you haven't been nowhere, the chances are for you getting promoted are slim to none. The people that get promoted are veterans, the combat veterans. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what the women was complaining about all the years, that they wasn't making generals, they wasn't making colonels, they wasn't getting field, they wasn't getting promotions because the guys are getting them because they were combat. So now the women has an equal right to be combat. So now when they come up for promotion, they can get it. But I mean, that's a hell of a way to get promoted.
Is that just in the Marines, or is that all?
It's pretty much all
branches. Okay.
I can't speak for all branches, but I can always say, thinking it from a military person, and maybe I'm not. I'm only speaking from how it was when I was in, and how I think it is now. I'm not there. I can't say that, but I'm only speculating. And for men, because I know that for men, if you didn't been to Vietnam during that time, don't even think about getting promoted. And that's the reason why, believe it or not, people didn't realize it, but they had people standing in line waiting to go to Vietnam, because they knew that's the only way you don't get promoted. So they would take their chances and go to Vietnam and come back, and that way their record will show that they've been in combat. Mm-hmm. And the Marines, that's how you get promoted. You ain't gonna get promoted in the Marine if you ain't been in combat, because that's what we do. And if you haven't been there, speaks for itself.
You say you're not the real deal.
Well, I mean, let's face it. I mean, if he and I were to go compete for the same rank, and we're both infantrymen, and if he's been to combat and I haven't, who you think they're gonna pick?
Now, what about the issues of don't ask, don't tell? You have to Did you see it, experience it?
Yes.
What was it? You know,
I did, yes. And
how
back
was
as
that?
far as Vietnam, I experienced it, yeah.
What was the sentiment of others?
It wasn't good. I don't think it's good now. I mean, it wasn't good, but it's a part of our culture now. I mean, look at it. It's legal to be married now, so it's there.
Same-sex marriage.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't, that's a tough question. I get mixed emotions about it. I think people should do what they want to do, as long as it don't affect no one else. But however, the problem is, how do you know if you affect someone else? And that's the issue there. You don't know. I would feel a little taken back if I saw a Marine and I'm sitting there and we on Liberty, he wearing high heels. I would have an issue with that, yes. But would I hate him or would I think anything different? No, I don't hate anyone. It's hard for me to do that because I know how it was with whites with blacks.
Mm-hmm.
So I know what it is to be hated. And I wouldn't want that person to feel what I experienced growing up in the military during that time. No, I don't want to do that. But would I like it? No.
Did you see instances of them being treated differently?
Oh yeah. In the Marine Corps at that time, any part of homosexuality, you were automatically discharged. Just like that. You were being put out. And I've seen, being in Vietnam, I can give you one instance that there were 2 Marines, and sometimes you be in that bunker, you be there a long time, or whatever. But evidently something happened, and they were caught in the act. Well, they immediately put them in the under guard, because we didn't have no guardhouse there. We just had under guard, and you had somebody watch them and so forth, get ready to send them back to go be discharged. Well, the other guard came early to relieve the guard that was guarding the homosexual. Well, he caught them in the act. And so both of them were going back. So the word was that you better guard them, but stay far away from them. That's a bad man. So, but anyway, I've seen it several times, and there've been times where guys would make marks at other people. I thought that was crazy, and then there were times where guys got killed over each other. Yeah. See, there are a lot of things happening in the military that you never hear about. Because the fact it's on government property, so you don't have no newspapers, no reporters, but it happens. People know. That's the reason why our bases have their own police force, their own system. So these things happen. I mean, I remember an incident where 2 guys was going to rape this guy. Guy pulled out a gun, killed both of them. They didn't say anything because they were trying to. They made the gesture like they were going to rape him. They didn't say it was, and that was the issue. But the point is that, hey, if you act like you're going to do something, this boy didn't mess around. He shot them both, killed them. But you never hear about that.
Right, not in the general.
No.
It doesn't hear.
No. And the only reason why I heard about it, a lot of time the base didn't hear about it. I was kept hushed too, because the reason why I heard about it because a friend of mine was a sergeant major in that unit, and he told me about it, and I said, "You got to be kidding me." He said, "Yeah." And they called it. It was 2 minorities and 1 non-minority. Mm-hmm. To give you the details. Okay. And so, but yeah, I've seen it and I've heard it. So it's there. It's always been there.
So the policy now, is it still don't ask, don't tell, or?
Yeah, it's still ask, don't tell. Okay. In other words, if you're gonna do your thing, that's fine. As long as you don't tell nobody. As long as you don't flirt around, as long as you ain't got no high heels on, or doing whatever that's problem. Now, if you and them are the same sex and you go off and do what you want to do, that's fine. As long as it doesn't affect anybody else. Now, that's crazy. That's one of the craziest things I've ever heard. It's always going to affect somebody else. If you're in there in the Marine Corps, you start seeing a guy switching, it's going to affect you. It's going to affect you. I don't care what you say. It's going to affect you. Especially when they tell you, they say, well, look, you and Sean's gonna have to go be, y'all have to go on post tonight. and you see Sean switching around. It's gonna affect you.
When you're out on comment or
Whatever it is. I mean,
or
or for that matter, just in the room, the locker room, taking a shower. You know, you're gonna be watching shower. Yeah, unfortunately, things happen, gosh. But do we get is it something to worry about? I don't think so.
well, you have to think about that person who can't tell as well, so then they can't be themselves.
You know what? I mean,
Or
that doesn't make
the
him.
mental.
To me, that doesn't make him a less soldier. I mean, you know,
Right.
he can still. That guy may end up saving your life or something like that. And if that was to happen, then you know, so then you may want to kiss him.
Take it away.
What are some of the life lessons that you learned from being in the military?
Oh gosh, how much time we got? There's a lot of them. Reason why I say
What's
that.
your top 5?
Yeah. A lot of life is that, and those pretty much that I learned at home. If you treat a person pretty much the way you want to be treated, then good things are gonna happen. If you treat everybody on face value, and don't have any perceived notions about an individual because he or she is one way, don't perceive that he's going to be something else. Because a person is, I used to be one of my things, because a young guy coming and talking hip hop, you know, he's into hip hop music. I know I'm going to have problems with him. Don't perceive that because it's probably one of your hardest workers. He just liked the music. And so I've learned that in the military. And then being a sergeant major, you had a lot of people within your command, and a lot of people you deal with all the time. And there's some people you thought were going to be, you think it would be the smartest thing in there, it could be the dumbest thing in the world. So don't have any perceived notions about people. Take everybody on face value. So I guess that's probably one of the most important things on that I've learned as far as life experiences. You know? And it helped me to, and I guess what you were saying in the civilian world, it helped me in my social life because is that I had an opportunity to work around with many different groups of people. I mean, there's not many people can say that they worked around a whole bunch of Hispanics, they worked around Asians, they worked around Caucasian, whatever. I've worked around a large number of different ethnic groups, different religions, and so it's pretty much, if you respect a person in a religion, you know, and you don't make fun of Hanukkah, you know the different things that other guys would tease the Jews about. You don't make fun of that, you know. And you respect him in his religion or her in a religion. And that's helped me because I've learned a lot about a lot of different religions. I know that, you know, the average person, you start talking about Muslims, everybody say Muslims or terrorists or whatever, but, you know, I've learned that there's two types of the Muslims. There's your Sunni and and your Shiite. And, you know, so there's a difference. You know, so I learned all that.
What message would you leave for the future generations, say like your grandkids, who would view this video and of course hear what you have to say about it?
I don't know. They don't listen.
Well, hypothetically, if they were to listen.
No,
I know you mentioned earlier that you're going to write a letter to your grandchildren and leave that.
Yeah, to all of them. I think what that I hope that people learn to it is that you know, if people look at this video or whatever, I just hope they learn that, and we're talking about military people, that you know, war is not the answer to a lot of problems that we have in this country and things that we do. I mean, and then sometimes war is the only answer. Sometimes, no matter what you do and how you do it, sometimes the only way you're going to stop certain things, you're going to have a big stick. And the military person, if you're not prepared to be that big stick, then don't be in the military. Because the government can tell you to go somewhere and do it, and if you're going to have issues with that, I suggest you not join.
Okay, Sergeant Major, last question. Is there anything you feel like we've discussed or we haven't discussed that you'd like to share, or any additional information you'd like to share with the interview about your military service?
Well, for me, And I think he pretty much covered a lot of things. But for me, the military was a stepping stone for me. In other words, I don't know where I would have been starting out as a young man, not ready to go to college, not sure what I wanted to do at that point. One thing about the military, once you get in the military, you don't have to think anymore. They do it all for you. So I don't think, if I tell my grandson, is that the military is not for everybody. Everybody can't be in the military. And I don't blame or criticize individuals. I just like when I talk to the grandkids, college is not for everybody. And I don't look any down on because you decide to go. I mean, you can be a good plumber and make probably much more than anybody in college that we go to right now. So, but the point is, do what you want to do and what you feel good about doing. You guys covered a lot of stuff, a lot more than I thought you would. But you did a good job because some of the questions you asked me, I ain't see down there. But y'all got me on the side, But I just hope that if anybody see this, to the point is that if you know anybody in the military, you do just kind of look at them and then see some of the things that they have to go through in life that if you haven't been there, you just don't have no idea. But don't criticize them. You know what I mean? They got a way of thinking that someone's a little different than the average civilian. Because I mean, we're not warmongers, but we don't mind if that's what it takes. We're there to do it. We're not going to go through a whole issue. I mean, I might not be speaking for all the military, but I know I'm speaking for most of the Marines. If it's time to go, let's roll. And my friends tease me now. He said, man, they might call you back to go back to the war. I said, look, if they call me back, this company in bad shape. We got some problems. But when I go back, oh hell yeah, I'd go if they call me. Because this is my country. So I would do that.
They say I think we talked about it a little bit before we started the camera rolling, was about the differences in the branches of the military.
What about?
What are they?
Well, there's some differences. Well, Marines are Marines. And I don't want to say I got the big head, but Marines are Marines. Army soldiers are soldiers. Navy guys are Navy guys. They're like that. Air Force is Air Force. It's almost like we look at it. It's like fraternities and sorority. I mean, sure, sororities. Y'all had you looked at different sorority. Y'all had a different thing that you call. We always looked at a lot of times, and alphas is always thinking they're real smart. We always look at Kappas as wanting to be Omegas. We always look at Sigma as that's just something to do. But being an Omega, we always looked at it as that, that's the hoorah of fraternities. And that's the reason, that's another reason why that, as a Marine and as an Omega, it's same to me.
Well said.
About today's incident in South Carolina.
Oh my gosh. What do you mean?
Just
Which
the
one?
thought.
There's several of them in South Carolina. Which one are you talking about?
Unfortunately, I wasn't speaking of the 9, but just the one that happened just this morning. They said it happened on a military base.
The one where the 4 Marines got killed? Oh man, it's an ambush. The guy ended up shooting 4 unarmed Marines, and he did that. I'm sure, like anything else, to get publicity. It's unfortunate because I look at the families of those Marines, anybody that happens to be shot down like that. I don't know what this country's. I don't know what this. I won't say the country. I won't say what society's coming to me. Do we all have to wear guns?
It's almost like terrorism here in
Yeah, I mean, see, we damned if we do and damned if we don't. When I say that, we want the government to get on these people and stop them, but yet still we want our privacy. We don't want them looking at it. So, man, you can't have both. and survive. You can't have both. I mean, let's face it. You want to stop these people, yet still you don't want to look in, because you figure that type of information get in the wrong hands. Well, folks, quiet as kept. They're doing it anyway. It's out there now already. But I think it's a travesty that's happened, and it just I don't know what to say. It's unfortunate that and I'm not as forgiving as the people in South Carolina. I'm not saying I'm in love with them and I pray for them and this and that. No, I think they ought to get the guy and execute him. Simple as that. Get rid of him.
This is for the 9, talking about Ruth.
No, this
Or
is for
for
the
the
guy.
Marine
For the guy. No, they already got
shooting.
the guy that shot him already.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think I think they just need to go ahead and do what they got to do and not waste time. Put it this way: if we were in their country, and we did that. You think they waste time in giving us Trump? No, not even do that. No.
Well, we thank you for your service. Thank you for your time letting us come and interview you. And we'll get you a copy of this as soon as we get it edited. But appreciate it.
I'm sure you're going to be a whole lot you're going to cut out of there. I already knew that. So that's you. Yeah.
We'll let it roll. Thank you.
Any other questions? Anything you wanted to ask me that you didn't cover on the thing?
You said you're going to grab some photos or something that you have. Your photo album or something?
Yeah. That was probably my wife. She probably knows all this stuff is. I got a couple pictures on it. One picture that I do keep. I'll get that. Yeah, I'll get that. Okay, stop. Yeah, I get that. Okay.
That won't work. Let's start over.
All right.
So this is your second tour.
Yeah, this is one in Da Nang. I was with Combined Action Platoon, and this was the unit here that I was with. And then this is me, I should say. This is me also on a patrol, and this is me in another patrol. We took pictures. And this is with me talking to the leader of the Popular Forces, which is the Vietnamese troops, that the South Vietnamese troops that we fought with. And this is guys we were training, calling Popular F. We call them Popular Forces. And this was my first tour, and I was in July during that time.
July?
July, Vietnam. And this is me getting ready to go there.
Right. And so you're in the yard of where?
At the Okinawa.
Oh, okay.
Japan, Okinawa, Japan. And this
They go see this video and there's the chicken wing.
Yeah. And this is another picture that I got when they painted the picture of me. And where was I at? I got this thing. I don't know. It might have been. I think somebody took a picture and sent it to somebody, and I think the guy did it. The Korean guy did it. I was in Korea.
Your wife know?
No, she probably don't.
No. She don't know? Oh.
No, she don't know, because she don't know where it came from. She just know I had it, that's all. So, it's a little different then.
There you go.